You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
It was the spring of 1642, and the corridors of the Dutch West India Company headquarters were quiet, dimly lit by daylight slanting through small windows, the air heavy with the scent of parchment and pipe smoke. Behind closed doors, a handful of directors, merchants, not monarchs, reviewed ledgers and letters from the tropics. Among them, one decision had begun to crystallize. It would not be announced with trumpets. There would be no open confrontation, but it would collapse a court across the ocean. The man they were about to dismiss was John Maurice of Nassau-Siegen, soldier, nobleman, and governor-general of Dutch Brazil. He had conquered cities and built palaces, and had brought painters and astronomers to the tropics. But he had also made himself into something more dangerous, something princely. The directors, seated beneath paintings of Calvinist restraint and maritime maps, did not need a revolution to remove him. They would simply take away his table. In Mauritsstad, the ornate capital Nassau had constructed in Recife, power was not only exercised on paper or in forts. It was performed in architecture, in gardens, in conversation, and perhaps most enduringly over food. At the Palacio Friburgo, banquets served as instruments of diplomacy and authority. To be invited to the vrije dis, or free table, was to be welcomed into the inner circle of colonial power. This table was more than generous hospitality. It was the connective tissue of Nassau's network. It fed Dutch officers, visiting scientists, local elites, and ambassadors. It forged loyalty, it softened rivals. It was, in many ways, the daily spectacle that made this princely rule inevitable. But in Amsterdam, among rows of drawers filled with receipts and reports, the directors saw only a financial liability. Nassau's expenditures had long exceeded expectations. His bridge projects, scientific patronage, and lavish court raised eyebrows in Holland. His superiors, after all, were running a company, not a kingdom. Its directors had invested in conquest, expecting profits, not princely courts with astronomical observations and African menageries. And so, in those shadowed boardrooms, the directors decided they would no longer pay for his performances. They would end the free table. A letter was drafted, no proclamations, no accusations, just a subtle severing of a vital artery. Without the table, the palace would fall silent. Guests would drift away. Influence would wither. Nassau would be dismissed not by force but by attrition. In Recife, the impact was immediate. The table was gone, the court hollowed. Officers, once bound by ritual meals, dispersed. The rituals that had sustained Nassau's charisma became echoes. Diplomacy was replaced by delay. Rather than depart, he stalled. He appealed to the States General, sent his secretary across the Atlantic, composed letters of protest, but the center had already collapsed. The dining hall, once filled with laughter, negotiation, and praise, now served as a monument to a vanishing regime. Back in Amsterdam, the directors of the company moved on to the next docket. They had not overthrown a governor, they had revised the budget. Yet the decision was far from trivial. It revealed the tension that lay at the heart of the Dutch imperial project. Could merchants command princes? Could a colonial empire run on spreadsheets, not crowns? The answer, at least in Nassau's case, was yes. His Brazil had been a theater of rule, beautiful, expansive, ambitious, but it was built on permission, not sovereignty. And when the permission was revoked, all the bridges, banquets, and botanic gardens in the world could not save it. Today, the Palacio Friburgo is gone, and Mauritsstad is simply Recife once more. But the records remain in boxes and ledgers, in long Dutch dispatches, in the notes of a dismissed court, and in those shadowed hallways in Amsterdam where no monument was ever raised, an empire was quietly reshaped. One dinner at a time.